What is up, everybody? Shauna D Man here, and welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are doing great. Hope you guys are having yourselves a great week. We are 2 days away from Auburn taking on Baylor in Waco this Friday night on Fox, 7 p.m. Central kickoff time, and we're gonna be talking about it in this video. Um, Sorry about that. All right. This is a game that like a lot of Auburn fans have talked about because obviously it's year three. Is Hugh Freeze on a hot seat? Yada yada yada. Same talking points that we usually do almost every single season when it comes to a coach. Um, I to me, I would not be surprised. Now it has not. He hasn't said it. Hugh Freeze hasn't said this, but like in the back of Hugh Freeze's mind, I wonder if he's kind of like, I need to get this game to have the season that I think that, Auburn fans are expecting. Like, is this game important where he is going to try to pull out, maybe not all the stops, but he's going to do everything in his power to make sure Auburn walks out of Waco with a win on Friday. That's just something I thought about myself. It hasn't really been said, but I'm just curious on if that's in the back of his mind, thinking he has to win this game. Not like a pressure kind of thing, but he knows his first half of the season is relatively tough compared to the back half of the season. Quite honestly, I would have loved to trade like maybe Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Arkansas, and put those in the front half and replaced it with the road games with Texas A&M and or Oklahoma, one of those two. But I mean, it is what it is. So, all right, what do we know about this game? On paper, Auburn is the more talented team. It is quite simple. Uh, but I mentioned this on Mondays, or maybe it was actually yesterday's video, where Hugh Freeze has a top 25 roster stacked with a top 10 roster stacked with another top 10 roster. And so this is the most talented team that's on paper and more likely on the field. Now Baylor does return some experience, particularly on the defensive side and a little bit on the offensive side. Now everybody's going to talk about Sawyer Robertson but if you look at his numbers, he wasn't all that great. They just happened. It's the Big 12. Because let me actually, you know what? Now I think about it, let me pull up Baylor's schedule real quick, or like last year's schedule. Cause I'm curious about something. Um, so 2024, they want to know they lost to a Utah team, lost to Colorado. So this is probably where it started. So they started 1-0 last season, and then they went one, two. Let's see, 1-1. So Colorado, yeah, they went on a tear at late in the season to kind of like get them into 8-4, get them to a bowl game. But like if you look at like at some of these matchups, um, West Virginia, for instance, Baylor won that one 49-35. TCU, Baylor won that one 37-34. Um, uh, Colorado 38-31. So it's not like they were pretty solid on defense last year. And somebody pointed this out. I think this was like with Charlie Five, Daryl Dapridge, and Zach Blackerby this past Sunday talking about this, is that like if you look at the Baylor defense, like I think 2020, 2021 when they won like 11 games, and maybe it was 2021, 2022 when they won 11 games, and you look at it, Ron Roberts was the defensive coordinator. That's when that Baylor defense was really, really good. And then after he left, they haven't really been that good. Dave Aranda took over for the defense and things like that. But I mean, he hasn't really. The defense has not been good, and like it's just curious to see like is he a good defensive coordinator? I think he is a good defensive coordinator. I don't want to like say he's not, but you look at his time at LSU with all that talent around. Did the talent elevate his defensive power prowess? But that's I don't know what it's just something to see. But it sounds like also during the that conversation with Charlie Five, Daryl Dappers, and Zach Blackerby, and they talked about some of the Baylor scrimmage notes. Now I've mentioned this on one of the videos the other day, where they're they're concerned about their pass coverage, and I just read you some of the games that they had last season where that defense really didn't stop anybody. It sounds like they are having trouble with pass coverage. Um, I think that they should be maybe fine rushing the passer. And then there was something else. Their quote unquote key defender is more than likely going to be out this game. He's like 70%. And then with a group I'm with, a guy mentioned that Baylor is going to be out with another probably two or three guys out the game on Friday. So they're going to come in this game very short-handed already with that roster. Now, then offensively for Baylor, they got a couple of guys in. I think their number one wide receiver is going to be a guy who transferred in from San Diego State, who, when he was at San Diego State, I think had like 600 yards, receiving yards. Doesn't really scream wide receiver one, but like the more you talk about it, like I think Baylor is going to have a good football team. I think offensively, I think they will probably do some stuff. I think they're going to move the ball. Don't get me wrong. I don't think this is going to be like a shutout type game. Sawyer Robertson is a good quarterback, but you saw what he was like a little bit against the LSU defense um, during the bowl game. I mean, he did lead them back into the game and everything, but that game was virtually over, to be quite honest, by that point. So I'm just curious on how good is Sawyer Robertson really? And I mean, we'll find out on Friday when he faced this very talented and very deep Auburn Tiger defense. So as far as the Auburn side of thing, they should have a clear advantage pretty much across the board. Offensive line, defensive line. We got another thing that came out from one of the Baylor scrimmages was that like the first scrimmage they had, that offensive line that they had allowed about 10 sacks. Then the second scrimmage they allowed about 3 sacks. So could this be an issue with the offensive line? There's so many questions and so many aspects to where Auburn is just a better team. Like offensive line, Auburn's definitely the better team in that aspect. Defensive line, I would probably say Auburn is also better in that. Now I think Baylor's defensive line could be pretty good as well, but I still like Auburn's defensive line against their offensive line. And you expect these Baylor wide receivers to go against Jay Crawford, Kayin Lee, and that secondary. That's gonna be very, I don't know. Like again, you go against guys like Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, Sam Turner, Michael Simmons. They go against these talented wide receivers every single practice. This should be like easy work for them. Now, obviously, the difference in the game is we don't know how Jackson Arnold's going to be. Hugh had a press conference on Monday, and he was very happy with saying how much he's like Jackson Arnold's decision making. It's been good, and it sounds like when it comes to the RPO style of stuff, it's Jackson's pretty much he's on ball with it. He's on top of it. Um, the one concern people have talked about is during some of the scrimmage when it's like drop back passing, the offensive line is struggling. I'm curious about that. Obviously, it's a scrimmage, and I mentioned the other day, like I don't really take much into scrimmages, because you just look at the defense. Like you got Keldrick Falk, Malik blocked in, and all these other talented defensive linemen. So trying you're going to lose at some point, but I think it's going to be an interesting, you know, conversation for sure. And I think he mentioned about Jackson Arnold. Like I said, the decision making has been good. He talked about how he kind of wants Jackson to stay in the pocket a little bit more and not, take off, stay in the pocket, go through his progression, that kind of stuff. Now, he is an athletic quarterback. He can improvise, extend plays, and stuff like that. But just to stay in the pocket and, make his progression, because somebody's going to be open. Because if we talking about this game, understand this. So I think Baylor's defensive line may be a little bit undersized. And if that's the case, this offensive line for Auburn should do well enough to push these guys off the line of scrimmage. And if that happens, if you get this running game going with Damari Alston, Jeremiah Cobb, and probably Darrell Robinson, that just makes things a lot easier in the passing game because Baylor is going to have to commit. They already kind of have to really commit anyway and figure out what they're going to do. Are you going to sit back like in zone and try to deal with these wide receivers? Because a good chance is we're going to see more 4 wide receiver sets this season. So potentially you're going to see like Eric Singleton, Cam Coleman, Michael Simmons, and maybe I don't know, Horatio Field, or like another talented receiver. I'm not sure who would that be, but you're gonna see 4 wide receivers. And if you're Baylor, what are you gonna do? I mean, obviously they're gonna play zone, but if you play zone or anything like that, guess what? You have the running game there, and Jackson Arnold that could take advantage of that. And so just everything just seems to be, in my opinion, just more heavily favored for Auburn. Now, definitely you can't have turnovers. What we've seen last week was week 0. A lot of teams with turnovers. Like, take a look at the Kansas State Iowa State game. Like what? 4 turnovers within the first quarter of the game by both teams. Conditioning is going to be another thing because you're finally going out there, and it's Texas, but it's like a 7 p.m. kickoff, so it shouldn't be that impactful. But conditioning, because you're now in it. The physicality is about to start and take off, and so that's one aspect to keep in mind. Special teams, it sounds like Alec McPherson may not be good to go. He's still obviously going through his injury. No, not injury, but his health issues and things like that. Hugh Freeze mentioned that, the backup guys that we have, Towns and Towns Magoo, and then they brought in a kicker from the portal. I can't remember his name. But, there's a good chance that we may see them kick, depending on how things go through the rest of the week with Alex. And I was a lot of Auburn fans. I'll even say, personally for me, I was hoping Alex McPherson would be 100% and good to go, because special teams, particularly in the kicking game, cost you some games last season. And so I was hoping we would have that aspect, a solid, hey, we know we can count on the kicking game this year to give us some points if we need it. But again, something we just have to wait and see when we get to that point in the kickoff on Friday. I'm curious, like, I wonder how. I'm trying to think about this game because I think Auburn needs to, if Auburn can start out hot, they need it, like kind of what we saw with the Texas A&M game last season. They come out firing, get up 21 early. If they can do that and put a lot more pressure on the Baylor side of things, on the Baylor offense, to respond, that's favorable for Auburn's defense, because something I mentioned that I want this Auburn defense to do is create more turnovers, whether it's interceptions or fumbles. This defense has got to get more turnovers. They were very good last season. That's the one aspect that you could. That's probably one of the aspects you can point to and say, okay, they weren't great in this area. They can improve here. Another one I would say would be, I'm curious to see how DJ Durkin does with third downs, because we saw when it was third and long several times last season, he would rush only 3 and drop 8. Does he still do that? Or does he, bring a fourth guy or something like that? Because you could probably rush, depending on the down yardage and everything, you could probably rush your front four and generate a very good amount of pass rushing. So that is something I'm curious to see what DJ Durkin does in that aspect. Um, and then turnovers, can't have turnovers with the Auburn offense, which a lot of people like to bring those up, but they like to bring those up in the confines of not adding the context of how some of those turnovers happen. Some of them were okay. Some of them were just really good plays by defensive players. Others, the ball was like batted up in the air and then intercepted. There's not much you really can do about that. Now they did clean it up as the season went on. Jackson Arnold only had like 3 interceptions during his entire time at Oklahoma last season. I'm not sure about fumbles. I know that fumbles have been mentioned, but compared to Sawyer Robertson's 8 interceptions that he had last season. So Jackson Arnold's taking, if you want to say he's taking care of the ball a lot more than Sawyer Robertson, then, yeah, I would agree with that. But it's just an unknown right now, because it's the first game of the season. Both teams are going to be energetic. Both teams are going to be just juiced up, hyped up, and ready to go. But I still like Auburn to win the game. I've said it that I think that Auburn was going to win the game, and then I said that Auburn's going to go 8-4. But this isn't the game that Auburn loses. I think Auburn's going to win this game. I would not be surprised if the first half, maybe maybe quarter and a half, I would not be surprised if this game is a lot scrappier and a lot closer. But then Auburn's overall talent takes over and ultimately, wins the game. It all depends on play calling too, because if play calling is hitting and is clicking, everything is doing good, Auburn can really score points. But again, we won't know until the live bullets happen, so we'll have to just wait and see. But other than that, that's relatively it for me, you guys. Just wanted to do my quick Baylor prediction. I think Auburn will win the game. I'm thinking along the lines of 30-21 in Auburn's favor. I think the line is like 2.5. So yeah, I think Auburn wins this game 30-21. I think Baylor is going to make some plays. I think, they are going to make plays. I don't think this is going to be like a Baylor offense that, is inept the entire game. I think they'll have some plays and they'll do some interesting stuff. But I feel at the end of the day, Auburn wins the game. I'm very excited. We are back with college football. Either I will go live after the Baylor Auburn game on Friday, or I'll do like a small recap video for Saturday or Sunday, depending on how things go. But guys, that is relatively it. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure you hit that like and subscribe button, comment below, and I will see you in the next video. Y'all have a good one.